Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Nekojima, Maintain Balance on Cat Island. This was a random game that I picked up at Gen Con. Probably by the time this video is up, it'll be last year's Gen Con. And because I was just walking through I think it was the Hachette booth, and I was like, oh, it's a balancing game. Dexterity games have become some of my favorite to play, and I'll give this a shot. And this one is so delightful. I think this one is just a blast, and so simple, but yet it has enough involvement to keep it entertaining. Whenever you're playing, you basically have this grid or this board. This is your board that you're balancing everything on. And on your turn, you roll 2 dice, and it's like, okay, I have to balance a piece because you're given either there are these yellow ropes, blue ropes, and white ropes, all of various length and sizes for the poles. And it's like, I have to balance one of these on a red and a green. And then you draw from this bag, and that determines what color. So it's like, okay, I have to do a red one. So then you just take one of the reds from the pile, and you just have to put it, as long as it's touching red and green, the green sections. And obviously there's rules. So these are supposed to represent telephone wires or electrical wires, that you can't touch another person's rope. It can't be touching the ground because that'd be live electricity. And what was the other one? You can't turn it upside down, and eventually you will be forced to place a cat on a specific color. And there are these little cat tokens that you have to somehow balance on. This one sucks. You have to somehow balance on the wires, and only one cat can be on the wires. It immediately starts to become crazy because of how you're finagling this tight board where wires cannot be touching one another. In this case, I rolled blue and any other color, and then another person picks the color for you. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do purple. And let's say I draw white from the bag, so now I can take this, and there we go. We're good there. And then eventually, now I have to do purple and blue again, and someone draws blue. But what's cool is you are allowed to move things around. This one becomes a lot more involved as more and more wires, because you start becoming creative because the length of these ropes varies. And you can also stack on top of other things here. So it's like, okay, if I want this to be, I need this to be super taut because I don't want this to touch the red. But eventually, like in this case, that is not touching. I know you obviously can't see it, but it quickly becomes one of those where everyone's looking, and they're like, oh, nope, that's not touching. All right, you got it. And whenever you're drawing how cats get placed, there are black cubes, and you hand those out to people to be like, okay, at the start of your next turn, you have to place a cat on a particular colored wire. And some of that might cause it to fall, some of it might cause wires to touch, and that's it. That's the game. Now it has this other module of birds, like bird nests that can give you, that's the solo mode, that can give it a little bit more complexity. But if you don't want to mess with that, this is the game. And eventually you're just going to run out of spots. It's going to topple over. Things are going to get really tight. And pretty much the winner is the one who doesn't knock it, or everyone else is the winner. There's only one loser, is the person who knocks everything over. Everyone else wins. And I like that. I like the fact that it's not like, oh, you knocked everything over, put it back, give it, there's another alternate win condition. It's like, nope, you lost, but everyone else wins. That's nice. I also really like the addition of these dice. It reminds me kind of Men at Work with the card. There was a deck of cards in that game that gave you your conditions of where you need to place things. I really like this sense of uncertainty that gives you the puzzle and randomness on where you might have to place something. Because if it's like, oh, nope, you got to do You got to do a super long one. You got to do one of these whites. Like, look at that. What is this? Like, what is this tiny piece? You got to do it on both reds. Well, you can't, like, how are you going to do that whenever you can't do it like that because that puts it on the ground. So then you got to put it like this, for example, which that would work because it's not touching the ground. So you immediately start becoming pretty creative with how you're going to put certain poles around the map. And one thing about dexterity games that I just really enjoy is, unless it's a game where everything crashes, like a Jenga thing where it falls, which is how this game ends anyway, but the longer the game goes on, the more awesome the game looks. I just really love that. You get to see people's creativity and risk and reward as they're trying to experiment, and they pull something off. They place a cat on it that balances in a way that you would think is physically impossible, but it does in some way. And this is one of those dexterity games where everyone is involved, as even if you're not the one placing, you're looking, trying to like see how they're gonna place it, and it's like, oh man, am I gonna try that? Oh, they might knock it off, and and yes, okay, it stayed. Haha, your turn. Good luck with that I left you with. So it is just a very simple dexterity game that still has kind of a lot of depth to it as a dexterity game. Like, I'm not saying it's the most complex or like, oh man, there's so much layers to it. But you would think a game where you roll dice and it's like, okay, a blue to a green. All right, I take one of these and I just go boom, and that's it. Well, I knocked it over. That's what happens. You would think that it would become simple, but immediately, as soon as like turn 3 starts, it's just like, and now it's getting more hectic. I love it. I think the component quality is really good for what it is. It may not look like much, but the crossing of the ropes and stuff becomes pretty impressive. And then I also it's funny because it's called like on Cat Island. Surprisingly, the cats don't do, like, they're not constantly being thrown in. And I actually like that because these cats are, everything else is like wooden, and with these ropes, these cats are cardboard. But they're all right, honestly. They definitely throw like a wrinkle in things. Like some of them where you have to balance, like some are easier than others because they have like this hook on it. But you'd be pretty like shocked to find out like, okay, well I can't put that there because that's touching the ground. So I have to do it in such a way that, that stays like so. But as the game goes on, these cats become a lot more of a problem because if you're trying to place them as they're up here and if it falls off and it like hits a rope, these things they're not heavy. So a simple like cat falling would immediately topple the whole thing. So I like how these things aren't being thrown in every turn, but because you're drawing black cubes from a bag, when they show up is going to vary. So I like that they're randomly kind of thrown into the game. So yeah, like this is another dexterity game that I love having in my collection. I've noticed that I actually seem to like competitive dexterity games. Don't get me wrong, Minara is really good, and it has its own element of dexterity strategy to it. But there's something fun about these types of balancing dex games that I just love that everyone gets involved, even if it's their opponent's turn. And like in this game, whenever you draw a black cube and you hand it to someone, like there's no rhyme or reason why you would hand it to anyone. It's not like you're getting points or anything. So it's like, I'm going to give it to him because they're in the lead. But they're a nice catch-up mechanism where it's like, okay, that person is clearly better at these types of balancing games, so we're going to give it to him. And whenever it's like, when the cat's handed to me, for example, I relish in the challenge. I think it's fun to be like, okay, how am I gonna make this work? And if it knocks over, and you play again. This one is definitely up there for other types of dexterity games. And again, it is not that complex to teach or get little kids or your family involved. So it's very, very charming. And that's it. That's it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Nekojima, I'm going to give it an 8. I really, really like this one. For me, there's something about dexterity games that I do like it when they're kind of punishing. And while this one is super fun to constantly play, there are certain dexterity games that I reserve 9s or 10s for. And there's really only like one that I think is just super brutal, but extremely fun. But this one is, one of the ones I'm keeping in my collection. So, that is it. That's my thoughts on Nekojima. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time update it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.